indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You do the roll call first, and then we'll...
Commissioner Alton? Commissioner Markowitz?
Here.
Commissioner Lee?
Here.
Commissioner Brooks?
Present.
Commissioner Alvarado?
Present.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Present.
Chairman Morelli?
Present.
Commissioner Alton is absent.
Absent. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the meeting, I'd just like to make a couple of announcements. First, I'd like to welcome our new commissioner, Mr. Michael Markowitz, to the board. I'm sure he will serve us very well with his knowledge. And also, the case that is 654 to 658 West Beach Street
West Broadway.
on the south side of Beach. Do you have the case
West
number?
Broadway.
West Broadway, rather.
Case
What's
number
the
3344.
3344. The special meeting on that case will be held on June 6th. That's the building area across from the Grandel. Anybody's interested in that?
Grandel. Grandel. Case number 3399, application of Ahmed Hagezi of 185 West Park Avenue, number 516, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height for a new rooftop deck with outdoor kitchen at 78 Illinois Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 112, Lot 14 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll introduce a motion to grant, but with clarification and conditions that on this rooftop deck, as was shown to the board, was a sink for cleansing only. There will be no other facilities, cooking or otherwise, which would include, but not limited to, any kind of grill, barbecue, any other kind of facility on that deck.
Commissioner Morelli has introduced a motion to grant with conditions. Who will second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Brooks has seconded the motion. Commissioner Lees?
Deny.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Alvarado?
I'm going to recuse myself. I wasn't here for this.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Grant with conditions.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant with condition.
We have no. The application has been granted with the conditions stated on the record. Where are we now? Case number 3401, application of Louis Aidici of 22 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5A use to construct a new two-family house at 48 New Hampshire Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 253, Lot 4 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application? Anybody? No motion? Held over?
We're holding it over.
Okay. The application will be held over to the next meeting. Case number 3368, application of 17 Prospect LLC of 335 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2B height, 9-112.1 off-street parking, 7-131B for a new third-story addition, interior alterations at 156 Franklin Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 173, Lot 107, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Commissioner Lees has introduced the motion to deny the application. Who will second?
I will second it.
Chairman Morelli is seconding the motion. Commissioner Lees?
Deny.
Commissioner Brooks?
Deny.
Commissioner Alvarado?
I recuse myself.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Deny.
Chairman Morelli?
Denied.
This application has been denied. Case number 3403, application of Bernadette Doherty of 52 Rockwood Road, Manhasset, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front yard deck at 39 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 253, Lot 24, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Can the applicant come up, please? I'll need your name and address, please.
Bernadette Doherty, 52 Rockywood Road, Manhasset, New York, 11030.
Okay.
I have a property also at 39 Tennessee Avenue, which I've had for
Thank
30
you.
years.
So, Ms. Doherty, the question to you is basically, as I read this case, it appears that you're looking to construct a front yard deck of 10 feet wide, and you're going to be going to within 1 foot of the property line. Am I correct?
That's correct.
All right. The footings, I'm gonna move this along. The footings of this deck are where in relation to the property line? 3 feet?
The foot, yeah, they are,
The supports?
yes,
Okay. So basically, they are 3 feet from the property line. The deck is cantilevered 2 feet beyond that to within 1 foot of the property line. All right, as this is a matter that is now going to be part of a new amended code, I see no other issues with this application. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor or against? If that's the case, I'll move to grant.
Second.
Case number 3403, application of Bernadette Doherty of 52 Rockwood Road, Manhasset, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard, for a new front yard deck at 39 Tennessee Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 253, Lot 24, on the Nassau County Land Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner DePasquale has seconded the motion. Commissioner Markowitz?
Granted.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Alvarado?
Grant.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Good luck.
Case number 3397, application of Marcia Tehan of 161 Grand Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2A use, 9-1121 off-street parking, for a conditional temporary variance for a three-family use at 161 Grand Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 6, Lot 233, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Chair Morelli.
Good evening.
Before we start, I just want to pass this out to the board. It's a packet that I think will be useful prior to making any decision. I will. Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, Suite 202, on behalf of the applicant, Marcia Tian, who's here tonight with me. Just to be clear, we've pulled this off the calendar a couple of times to analyze what we wanted to do. Obviously, we are not looking to make this a three-family house. We're looking to make this a conditional use, provided Ms. Tehan resides there. She's lived there for over 30 years. This is a simple math case and a very simple hardship case. I provided you with everything I could possibly get you numbers-wise. It's embarrassing enough for her to come up here in front of her neighbors and present this case to you. But I've seen many cases that the board have granted temporary use for hardships for ones to twos, and this, in my opinion, is really no different theoretically. She's lived in the home for over 30 years, raised her family there. Her ex-husband is deceased and recently lost her job. She was working in a real estate law firm. Her boss went to a bigger firm, and obviously, as you know, in this market, it's not easy to get another job doing so. She's living on her Social Security. I have all the numbers there for you. But anything you need over the month, obviously, I can be contacted. I'll supply backup documentation to satisfy you. Like I said, she's living on her fixed Social Security income. She's come to the board with her financials. Her hardship is embarrassing enough, but like I said, the alternative is she either allows the downstairs to be rented to one person, who she has a family friend who's willing to rent it for 2 or 3 years. Obviously, I would recommend no more than 2, because if this is granted, it would be a 2-year special use permit. So it would be one additional person living in this entire house. The alternative is, if she doesn't have this granted, she has to sell the home. There's no other way around it. If she does, you're going to have a 3-family apartment that's going to be occupied. So she has a 3-bedroom apartment that's going to be occupied. Right now, Ms. Tehan lives on the middle floor, which is 3 bedrooms. We're looking to put her son's friend on the downstairs, which I have been informed from the contractor that complies with code height-wise. There should be no issues with that regarding the completion of the downstairs if the board sees fit to allow the use for such. So you're going to have one additional person on the block. If she sells the house, you're probably going to have 3, because that middle apartment's going to be fully occupied with all 3 bedrooms. Right now, she lives there by herself. Again, I prefer to keep the financial records private. I'm sure there's neighbors here and other people that are going to be privy to it. If there's anything else that the board needs to supplement it, we're happy to provide it. My client wants to speak tonight as well. The home currently is a 2-bedroom over a 3-bedroom. She has the upstairs rented. The rental income is right on the first page there for you to see. She lives in the 3-bedroom by herself. And again, if she's denied, she's going to be forced to sell the home, in which case it's going to be more of a detriment to the neighborhood, car-wise, population-wise. It is Grand Boulevard. I know there's neighbors. I know they're concerned. I understand their concerns. So does my client. That's why we pulled this case 2 months in a row, so that we can get all our ducks in a row to convince the board that this is an absolute necessity. She's near the church. On a Sunday, that church puts 100 cars on the block. So I don't think one car now is going to really make a big difference on a daily basis. And again, I've seen and handled several cases where a special use permit's granted, especially where we can prove a hardship. Most of them have been 1 to 2, but I don't think this is really any different conceptually through 2 to a 3. The legal criteria, I don't think there's an undesirable change to the neighborhood. Like I said, the alternative is you're going to get more people and more cars because she's living alone in the 3-bedroom and intends to do so. We intend to give a 2-year lease to the family friend who she's been friends with for, since he was a baby. He's going to live there. He wanted a 3-year lease if this worked out, but like I said, it's going to be a 2-year special use permit, so we would abide by that and not give more than that, so we'd have a problem. There's really going to be no structural changes. It's just going to be finishing the downstairs, putting an egress window in. It can't be achieved by any other feasible means. I've given you the financials. I've given you all her documentation, all her bills, and this is a clear hardship. So it's either this or she sells.
Okay.
We don't think it's substantial. We're putting one person in the house. If she sells the house or doesn't live there, obviously the variance goes away. In 2 years, we revisit this if she abuses it, in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, like I said, I don't think it's going to have a real adverse impact on the neighborhood, making it a straight 3-family. I would 100% agree it would. I would be concerned as well. If I was a neighbor, I'd be upset. But it's not. It's allowing one additional person to live there in the privacy portion of the house, not only to supplement her financially, but as you can see, she does have a handicap, and it's a family friend. She does need assistance. She couldn't come up into my office. I've had to meet her downstairs each time that I've met her. So your consideration, obviously, with the financials in hand, would be greatly appreciated. My client would definitely like to say something to the board.
Sure, well, I have a couple of questions, and then
Sure.
maybe Ms. Tian can answer them.
Sure.
It would just, I think, behoove the board at this point, if we see that the client is receiving Social Security, if there were any additional W-2s or 1099s for any additional work she might have done during the last calendar year or two in addition. There is none, I'm guessing.
There is, I went over that, Chairman. She, like I said, she worked for a law firm that I did a lot of business with, and I know he went to a bigger firm. And
Wait, but Ms. Tian, we'll have you talk after Mr. Apple's done.
the law
We have
firm
to get
she
you on
worked
the
for,
record.
I know the attorney personally. I did a lot of work with him. He went to a bigger firm and closed his office.
Okay. The other thing is, just to clarify, the lower floor of that home, where the driveway pitches down, obviously is a, flood risk, a flood problem. So this area where the tenant would be living is not on that level, am I correct? All right, so then how, wait, you know what? All right, you know what I'm going to
Put your name on the
do?
record,
Just to
yeah.
get it on the record.
Yeah, just put
Mr.
your
Apple,
name on
Ms.
the record.
Tian, step up to the podium, please, and give us your name and address for the record, so that when I ask you questions, it'll be on the record. It's coming from
Marsha
you.
Tehan,
Mhm. Name and address, please.
No, she's trying to.
If it's easier, Kenny, can you just speak the microphone down?
I got it.
Yeah,
It's Marsha Tehan,
your address is,
161 Grand Boulevard, Long
thank you.
Beach.
So, Ms. Tian, what I was asking was, because I just want to get it on the record, and we can see it from the plan, but I want it on the record in terms of this apartment or this habitable space that we're talking about. I wasn't really sure that it was habitable space, but Mr. Apple states that it meets the codes. My question is that, how is that separated from the garage, which appears to be an area that would easily flood, like from
Okay,
sand?
so in between the garage and this area is the laundry room. So it's actually way in the back of the house, whereas the garage is way in the front of the house. And I also just had estimates, and I'm going to hire a company to put in a whole sump pump system so that it will never get flooded down there.
Okay, number one. Number two, what's the size of that apartment again, for the record?
I don't know.
What would you make it at? A one bedroom?
It's a one-bedroom.
Okay. And then we talked about an egress window. Where is the doorway to get into that apartment? Where will it be?
The exterior doorway or the interior
To get into
doorway?
the apartment? In other words, I'm assuming that the tenant would live in that one-bedroom apartment, would have their own way of getting in and out without
Correct.
going into your home or to any other.
Correct.
How will they enter that apartment?
If you walk down the side of the house.
On the south or north side? The
North.
beach side of
The
the,
north side.
right.
And there's a couple of steps down and the doorway into the downstairs.
I see, okay. And, Mr. Apple, the ceiling height is,
It's 7.5 inches.
okay, thank you. And so, would you be able to provide the board with any other documentation? I believe that's what I'd ask, but I wanted to hear it from you, that there is no W-2, there are no 1099s.
I could give you my last year's tax return that shows that all I
Okay,
got was
that's
Social
fine.
Security.
So, yeah, the case remains open. Mr. Apple will, provide the documentation that we need. Obviously, it is a situation that you've presented before the board before in terms of the scope of someone, needing assistance, financially, et cetera. And I guess the difference is the fact that, as you mentioned, it becomes a three-family situation instead of the usual one family, with, if you want to call it a mother-daughter, temporary conditional, or a temporary conditional granted for a second kitchen for the purposes of a tenant because of either illness or finances. This is a three-family, a little bit different
I
than what.
think, Chairman, the distinction here I kind of said, and I want to stress it, is that the alternative is if she sells the house, it's going to be three people in that middle apartment that one person occupies. So I think this is actually the lesser of two evils populace-wise by having to keep it with one person downstairs and she occupies the three-bedroom apartment. Otherwise, if she sells it, you would think the three people would live in that apartment, three-bedroom.
Okay, and the projected rent from that apartment is $1,650.
About 1650. That's what we're prepared to sign. And obviously, we didn't sign a lease or prepare one. It's a family friend, but we are prepared to do so.
Okay. Do any members of the board have any questions at this time?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Mr. Marco?
Okay. So in your income, you said there's rent of $2,550, correct?
Correct.
All right. So do you have a written lease as to that?
Yep, yes, with the upstairs tenant, yes, I do.
Okay, but you didn't provide that lease to us.
I can.
Okay. Now, this lease, how many months or how many years is that lease?
It's a yearly lease, and it's been renewed once, and I don't think they have any intentions of moving.
Okay. So with the lease, are you increasing the rent 5% each year?
I don't do that. I gave him last year a $50 a month increase. He does my shoveling of the snow for me. If I need something at the grocery store, they help me. So I kind of reciprocate by not, killing them with the rent, because they do help me too.
Do you understand that 5% increase in the rent is a legal increase in rent? You can increase somebody 5% each year,
Okay.
okay? So would you be willing to consider that?
I think that if I did that, I would lose my tenant. I don't think it's affordable for them.
Commissioner, if I may, I think your point's well taken. I think that there can be a rent increase, whether it was this tenant or another one. But I also think the bottom expenses are going to go up at the same exponential. This is today's current market. I think if you're talking about increasing the rent from 25.50 to 5%, you're going to see these expenses go up as well, taxes,
Well, taxes are going to go up irrespective of...
No, I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. I think it would offset anyway. I think if she does increase the rent, this will be an even more severe hardship. If she does increase the rent, it's not going to help her situation to where she stands today with what I presented.
Now, when they pay the rent, do they pay it by check or cash?
They pay it by check.
Okay, so I would like to see the rent checks at least. I mean, that's not personal, that's,
No, I could give you those.
they are in the packet.
I believe
Thank
the
you.
rent check is in the, I'll give you the lease, that's no problem.
Okay,
I believe the rent check is the first document beyond the list of expenses and income.
okay. And the insurance that you pay, that's through the mortgage, correct?
Correct.
All right. Do you, first of all, you really shouldn't be embarrassed by this, seriously. Because
it
this
is
is just, we're
embarrassing.
doing our job, you're doing your job, you're making the requests.
I know, but it is embarrassing because, you know, all these years I was working and was able to support myself, and now I can't. And it is embarrassing to me.
Okay, I understand, all right.
I don't think this is necessary at this point.
Yeah.
I think we can get the documentation in private. I don't think we need to humiliate an applicant.
No,
I'm gonna provide, I'm going to provide you the tax returns and the lease for the upstairs. If there's anything else you want.
If you want to see a proposed lease for the downstairs, I can ask him
Mr. Apple
to do
knows
that.
what we need.
I'll get it to you. I'll have it to you this week.
What's that? Yeah. All right, are there any other members of the board? All right, anyone in the neighborhood want to speak in favor or against? Come, please.
Just Marcia. Sit, relax.
Hi.
Name and address, please.
Madeline Denellen. I live at 165 Grand Boulevard in Long Beach, New
Okay.
York.
For or against?
I am against.
Okay.
The-
State your case.
I'm very sorry about her hardship. I understand. I'm a widow myself on a widow's income, and that apartment just isn't safe. It's below ground. Oh, that apartment isn't safe. It is below ground. She has a huge pool in the backyard that is aging and could give away at any time. And she has her front garage doors cemented shut. If you lift up her garage doors, there's a brick wall behind it. So if that water was to come out and get into that apartment, there is no place for it to go.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, the case will remain open until voting. Mr. Apple, you'll submit the documents, please, that we
I'll
request.
have them to you this week, Chairman.
Thank you.
Case number 3404, application of Matt and Stephanie DeGraff of 125 National Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.c front yard, 9-105.d side yard, for a new front yard deck at 125 National Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 75, Lot 158, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Kenneth Apple,
Good
30
evening.
West, good evening. Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, on behalf of the applicant, Matt and Stephanie DeGraff, who own and reside as their primary residence at 125 National Boulevard. The applicants have owned this house for approximately 7 years, reside there with their family, 2 small children. They've chosen to stay in Long Beach, raise their family, and to do so need to expand the size of the home, hence the dormer. They formerly owned a co-op in Long Beach, so they've been longtime residents of the city. They're here tonight to seek what we believe to be a reasonable request from the board. Just to give you a little background, I'm sure you know, but the house is a corner property on the southwest corner of National and West Penn Street. They're the only residential home on National Boulevard between Broadway and Penn. Next to it is the condos that actually come out to the property line. So anything we do as far as going on to National is going to actually be receded from where the property line is next door to them. The traffic down Penn Street, which I think is important to note, goes eastbound. So anything they do on their property to the right is not going to affect any vision of anybody coming southbound on National, at that stop sign at their corner. I think there's simple variances that we're requesting. The front yard, we're looking to build an overhang, which is just for optics, aesthetic purposes. It's just to cover them before they walk in the house. They have an ample setback even with that, overhang that they're looking to build. It's sort of a portico. The side yard on Penn Street, they're looking to build a deck, approximately 2.5 feet high, nothing tremendously, it's not coming off the second floor. It's pretty much a platform deck, 6 inches over what we even need a permit for to build in Long Beach. They're still leaving 7 feet of side yard, even back to the deck. They have 2 small children. Instead of playing on the grass, they can go out on the deck and, have a little recreation area. They really have no other property, since that corner property and to the south of them is the building. The rear yard setback variance is very simple explanation. There's a door back there currently, and all it is a platform to lead to the deck, that they can go out the door and get onto this deck. Again, when you look at this completed project, there's going to be plenty of setbacks in the front yard. There's still going to be 7 feet on the side yard of grass, which I know the board likes to see the green remain. But again, for the little kids to play on, the deck is a lot more palatable. Again, I don't think there's any undesirable change to the neighborhood. The building next door is a condo. They come right out to the property line, pretty much. They've been, these variances with decks have been regularly granted by the board, and so have the front porticos. And again, the backyard is really not substantial. It's just that walkway to lead from the back door to the deck. Either way, they're going to walk on it, whether it's granted and they have the deck there or not. Somebody's going to walk back there. Nobody's hanging out back there. It's literally a walkway. Just going to tie in with the deck. It can't be achieved by any other means. They have no other property. It's just that corner property, so the only thing they could do is use the side yard on Penn Street. The National, again, is not going to be used for anything. It's just the portico. We don't believe it's substantial. As I stated before, they've left a good amount of setbacks, so there's no issue. There's no problem with the traffic. Again, nobody's going to be impeded as they come up that stop sign. And it's certainly not going to have a negative impact on the physical or environmental. It's not going to have an impact on the physical and environmental portion of the community. Obviously, they're doing a major improvement to their home, adding a second story. They're going to stay here. This is, again, their forever home. You can hear that a couple times tonight, but they're making an investment to stay here, and they want to maximize the use of their property. We believe it's a simple application. These setbacks have been granted, and they want to remain in this home and raise their family, and that's the relief they're seeking tonight. Thank you. That's the relief that they're seeking tonight.
So basically, when we talk about the deck and its sizes, on the south side, basically now, is where we're calling the Penn Street south side, which is actually the front yard as well. That's going to leave 7.2 feet.
North side. North side, right?
That's right, that's on the north side.
That's
leaving 7.2 feet, am I
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
For the record. And on the front yard, so now it's going to be 10.2 feet with the
Correct.
deck extension.
The deck is not going to be in the front yard. The deck is, the only thing in the front yard.
Well, the front yard is still National Boulevard, which is one, so you have 2 front yards, right? You have National,
Penn and Penn.
you have Penn.
Correct.
Okay.
The deck is going to be on Penn Street, and the portico is going to be on the National Boulevard.
Okay, so the only thing, to be clear, that then triggers the other side, or the national side, is the portico that comes over from the deck. There is no real actual deck.
Not on the national side.
Not on the
I
national
believe it's
side.
going to be.
It's
I believe
on
it's gonna be
the
consistent
side
with
of
the house.
Penn.
It's going to be even with the structure of the home. I
Okay,
don't think it's going to
that's,
protrude onto national.
yeah, I just wanted to be clear about that, and I wanted to have that on the record.
The deck comes around National, but it's within the appropriate zoning.
Right,
Yeah.
because it's in line with the house.
Right, if you walk on National, you'll see what's the side of the deck, but it's really
Correct.
throughout a Penn Street deck.
And it's got the right setback in that side. It's the portico that doesn't.
Correct.
Are there any members of the board that have any questions? Would anyone like to make a motion on the application?
So moved.
Oh, yeah, anybody want to speak in favor or against on it? No.
I move in favor of the application.
I'll second it.
Okay, case number 3404, application of Matt and Stephanie DeGraff of 125 National Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105C front yard, 9-105D side yard, for a new front yard deck at 125 National Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 75, Lot 158, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Markowitz has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Lees has seconded the motion. Commissioner Markowitz?
So moved.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Alvarado?
Grant.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted. Case number 3405, application of Nat Silber of 45 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front yard deck at 45 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 259, Lot 21 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Through you, Chairman. Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, on behalf of the applicant. I have a presentation prepared, but I think this fits with the first application tonight where we have decks that are maintaining the 1-foot setback. I can go through the entire.
That's okay, just to make the record clear, before the city council at this time is a zoning code amendment wherein the setback that is currently, that the applicant here is currently seeking a variance from, this will actually be the new norm for the city of Long Beach. So if that code was voted on, which it has not been, but fully anticipate it will pass and whatnot, this would be granted as of right. So with that, that's what Mr. Apple is referring to when he says this falls into the spectrum of the prior deck.
Okay. With that in mind, would anyone want to ask any questions on the board? None? Anybody in the audience, for or against? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to grant.
I'll second.
Who said that? Case number 3405, application of Nat Silber, 45 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front yard deck at 45 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 259, Lot 21, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Brooks has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Markowitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Alvarado?
Grant.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted. Case number 3406, application of Jillian Egan of 44 Minnesota Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, 9-105.5C front yard for a new third-story addition with roof deck, front deck, at 44 Minnesota Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 252, Lot 6, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Apple.
Good evening, Chairman. Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Jillian Egan. They've owned this property for the past 6 years. They've been longtime residents of Long Beach. First, I want to clarify that the deck in the front yard, we have amended the plans. I don't know if they've made it to you yet. If they haven't, they will. So for the record, the front yard setback will be 1 foot or more for the deck. So to comply with what this board's
And
granted.
you'll submit that plan, right?
The plans will be submitted. It'll be a condition. Chairman, it'll be either a foot or a little bit more than a foot setback on the front deck.
So let's address the height.
So the height, this home is currently compliant. They're looking to add a second story, and they're looking to add the roof deck. Again, this is a family residence. They have a couple of kids. This is their forever home. They're building, I believe it's about a 16 by 20. They're proposing a roof deck on the back. And the only reason that they're here tonight, and I went over this with Inspector Shu today, the only reason that they're here is because of the bulkhead that leads to the deck. That's the height. Without that bulkhead, they're extremely close to not even needing a variance, maybe a couple of inches difference.
Can you describe the bulkhead, please?
So the bulkhead is a flat bulkhead, obviously, that goes across the center of the property. It's going to be behind a gable, and it's obviously only used for ingress and egress to what we hope to be the rooftop deck in the back of the house.
Okay, so my question to you then is that the rooftop deck itself, including the railing, would not be over the height?
It's very close. I was at the building department today, and they were scaling it. I don't believe it will need a variance.
I'm sorry if I can interrupt. You submitted amended plans to the building department today, Kenny?
If they were not submitted, they're going to be. We spoke to the architect yesterday. My client's going to speak, but we spoke to the architect yesterday. And we didn't know if racing them in was going to do us any good, or just make this a condition of, if you so.
Just for the record, actually, I will request the board does not vote on this evening, just because I would rather the building department sees the amended plans first, just because, and I'm sure it won't, but just in the hypothetical case where amended plans might trigger the need for another variance, I need them to see it first.
I will say, though, that the only thing that we plan to amend on our plans, unless there's something else that comes up tonight, is that front deck setback. So I don't know if that changes your position on that.
The front deck setback is now going to be with
A foot or more.
foot.
I was told 1.2 inches, but it's definitely going to be more than a foot.
I would feel more comfortable if the zoning board just reviewed it first.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be difficult, it's just.
No, I know,
It's my job to protect the members up here.
I completely understand your position, counsel. I just wanted to expedite this with my clients who are on hold with a contractor, that's all.
And I apologize, I'm
No,
sorry,
I
I'm not
understand.
trying to be difficult.
We understand. So the only thing that would trigger a variance is that bulkhead, and that's the exit to the rooftop deck. And again, I've heard plenty about rooftop decks, and I understand the board's position on them, but I think this one's unique in the fact that this is really going to be a family living there. This is not going to be a flipped house. We're not looking to profit on the backs of the zoning board by putting a roof deck and asking to sell it for $100,000 more. I mean, this is a family who's been here for years. Their cousins live on the block. They want to stay on the block, and, they want to maximize their space. There's no other way to go. And, I mean, obviously, you've heard this 100 times, or 1,000 times by now. On a 30 by 60, there's nowhere else to go. And, to go up and play with the dog or hang out or lounge out, that's it for kids, rather than going to the street. I can go through the legal criteria again. If there's no undesirable change, there's many roof decks in the West End. We're not even doing it for view. We're 44, we're all the way down the block. We're closer to Beach Street, unless you want to see Minnesota's, which I don't think that's the reason they're building their roof deck. There's no undesirable change. It's a normal feature of these homes. Obviously, it's triggering a zoning application because of the bulkhead. But I don't think the height's going to stand out. Again, it's going to be set back in the middle of the house. You're going to see a gable in the front of the house anyway. Can't be achieved by any other means. There's no other way that they could have living space with their family. It's 30 by 60 property. There's just nowhere to go other than the top of the house. We don't believe it's substantial. There's a lot of homes with rooftop decks. And again, I spoke with the chairman. We don't even believe this would trigger a variance without the bulkhead with the stairs. We don't think it's going to have an adverse impact on the neighborhood. If anything, it's going to increase the value of the homes around it. It's going to be a beautiful home. They're making a $600,000 investment to stay here. They very easily could have bought a home anywhere on the South Shore. My client definitely wants to say a few words regarding that. And they chose to stay in Long Beach and obviously really would like the space for their children.
All right, so let's have the applicant come up then and hear what they have to say. Good evening, folks. Name and address for the record, please.
Jillian Copius, formerly Jillian Egan, 44 Minnesota Avenue. My husband, Brian Copius. On behalf of both of us, we would just like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, giving us the time. We respectfully ask for the variance in regards to our proposed roof deck. We both grew up in Seaford, but have long called Long Beach home for nearly 10 years. After renting a tiny but wonderful apartment on Maryland Avenue, my sister and I decided to sow more permanent oats here and bought the house at 44 Minnesota in 2018. In 2021 and 22, we both married, and decisions needed to be made. My sister and her husband were fortunate to find their forever home in East Atlantic Beach on Brookline, leaving Brian and I with some decisions to make. We were very, very happy to make the decision with our hearts to stay at 44 Minnesota, even though that meant a big investment, big changes, moving out with our two small children. I was 38 weeks pregnant in November when we moved out, with the anticipation of work beginning hopefully in January or February. The news that our permits were denied was heartbreaking for us. We understood that any timelines we were given were rough estimates, but it was our hope that construction would begin in January or February. We've been blessed to have a home in Seaford with my parents while we, await construction start times. The roof deck is important to us. Of course, there was the option to sell 44 Minnesota for a profit and move to any town on Long Island with a yard to have privacy and a place for our children to safely run around, which was the one thing that pulled at us from time to time, but that's not where our hearts led us. Incorporating the roof deck into our plan with an internal entrance we felt was the only way we could replace that feeling of privacy and safety for our family. The roof deck was a huge draw for us when we began making the plans, as it will provide a safe space for our growing family to spend time together outdoors in the fresh air, whether it's having a meal, soaking up the sun with our dog, or just teetering and rolling around as our babies are doing right now. Brian and I have a lot of respect for our neighbors and our community, and we value what we've found here in Long Beach, specifically on Minnesota Avenue. With my sister a few blocks west, our cousins and their son a few houses down the block, among many, many other reasons, we know we're in the perfect place to raise our children. We take tremendous pride in our property and the relationships we've built with our neighbors, and we're hopeful that you will see how important this addition is to us and our home, as it'll provide that special place for us to continue making memories with our little children. So,
Okay, thank you.
just want to thank you very much for the consideration.
Appreciate it. But I just would like you to understand, as Council Lupo mentioned, you know, we do need to see some of these changes, especially if there is any possibility that the railing or the, you know, the area of the rooftop deck would trigger off any variance. I mean, on its face, merit, right now, it appears to be benign. It appears to me to just be a case of the deck, which really, you know, will be handled by the council, and the height variance. But the thing is, if you're saying that it's only because of the bulkhead, we have to verify that, and there are no other additional possible variances that would be triggered.
Well, we're proposing to amend the front deck.
Right, well, we know that. But as I mentioned, Council Lupo said that he wanted to request that the plan be submitted.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were concerned that the front deck would trigger more variances. The roof is what it is.
No, I understand. You said you were submitting amended plans, and the amended plans are just for the front deck.
Yes. If you see fit, and again, this is, I understand council's position, if you see fit to even vote on this just because of the necessity based on the contractor being on hold, I mean, I would go with something that if our amended plans don't trigger any further variances, and they're at least a foot setback on the decks. So that might alleviate your concern, council.
Something, yeah, to be honest, yeah, that would, as far as that's concerned. If the board felt
I
inclined.
mean, I don't know how the
to
other members of the board would feel about,
to
you know,
vote on
voting
this
on
this
this or
evening.
not.
And I understand that, I just want to get past not voting on it because of that.
You know, to be honest with you, I mean, in this case, right, if the board was inclined to vote on this at this time, it wouldn't be catastrophic. But I do want to get away from the habit of us as a board, or this board, making determinations before it's been reviewed by the building department. Not that, you know, there's anything disingenuous going on here, but you know what, if it's a matter of course that we continue or allow that to happen, there might be a time where something nefarious is happening, and then all of a sudden, you know, we approved something that we had no business approving in the first
Well,
place.
I would respectfully, I would say that if you saw fit to vote on it, it will be under the condition that those front decks are at least a foot from the property line, and no further variances are triggered other than what was before.
I understand.
Okay. I would be comfortable with that, as long as it meets the statute, that we could vote on it.
I'm comfortable with that just because of the fact that it's removing the need for the other variance essentially by bringing it to the 1 foot, and obviously not triggering anything. However, I don't know if there's anyone here left to speak for.
There's no one here.
I'm sorry? But yeah, but
Sure.
with that, you know.
I had a question. I see your architects from Amityville and stuff, and, you know, and I understand when it comes into designing your new home, your forever home, and you're doing a reno all for already a lifted house, but did you take in any consideration our zoning codes, our building codes, when it came to designing, so we could have maybe alleviated this whole situation with our height?
So, of course, hindsight is 20/20, but Joe Bello is a very close friend of my older brother's, so financially, there were some ways that he helped us out with certain fees. We know his work is beautiful, we've seen some of his work, so in choosing him as opposed to somebody local that might have more knowledge about codes, that's why we chose him.
I think if, you know, obviously I got involved in this after the horse was out of the barn, so to speak. I think if, you know, advising clients, I would say use someone local, so we have less of a necessity to ask you guys for.
If we did it over again, we would do somebody local.
Because the height is definitely, a factor in this case.
Certainly a big disappointment to realize that, but we were already in the process. The mortgage rate was locked, the renovation loan, everything was already moving, and we had big decisions to make with that as well, to lock that in, so we didn't lose.
The first payment on the renovation loan is due next month, that's why we're confident.
Now, is there any way, and I've gone through this process myself, and I feel for you. I lived in someone's attic for a few months while my house was being lifted with a little 2-month-old, so. But is there any way to go back to the architect to see if they can look at the numbers and bring your overall height down to still give you what you're looking for?
So we did talk about that with her, but I think we're like 8 feet each, the main living space and then the bedrooms. To get that roof deck, I remember, when we talked about it, it was kind of crunching things in the living space in order to try to still be within the height.
I don't think they've been excessive, on any of the parts of these plans. unfortunately.
What were the ceiling heights?
I believe they're 8 feet.
Yeah, they're only 8 feet, okay. Yeah, so there was really no room to trim, because I know we've been seeing homes where everybody's really trying to get these tall ceilings in their homes, 9, even 10 feet at times, but there's no room there. The only thing would have been to maybe eliminate the deck in the first place, and get rid of the header. I don't see any other way with the plan that's submitted. How do members of the board feel?
Did you start demo yet?
No, nothing. The house is exactly where we left.
I took the pictures in your file, I took them.
Right.
I took them when I filed the application.
And when did you purchase the property?
Originally in 2018. And then when we had baby number 2 on the way, we have there'll be 2 next week and a 5-month-old at home.
I mean, I think the second story is natural necessity that doesn't trigger variances. The roof deck is something that's going to keep them here as opposed to buying a house somewhere else with a backyard. I think that's really what it's.
Any members of the board? Anybody want to make a motion on with a condition?
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
The finish of the bulkhead is the same as the rest of the house?
Yeah.
And what is that? Just
The shingles, it'll be like shaker style shingles.
Any other questions?
Vinyl siding.
It's vinyl?
It's vinyl, but it
It's
has
shaker
the look of the
style.
shaker.
Any other members? Would anyone like to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to grant.
With a condition?
With conditions?
With the conditions you set forth that the plans need to be amended and nothing else changes other than the front yard.
No other variances would
And
be
so just for
permitted.
clarity, Commissioner moves to grant with the conditions that the front deck setback is increased from 0.2 foot to a minimum of 1 foot, and that the amended plans upon submission and review from the Long Beach Building Department, the need for no additional variances would be triggered.
Other than what's on this?
Other than, yes, I said additional.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I would second that.
Case number 3406, application of Jillian Egan of 44 Minnesota Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, 9-105.5C front yard, for a new third-story addition with roof deck, front yard deck at 44 Minnesota Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 252, Lot 6, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Alvarado has introduced a motion to grant with conditions. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Markowitz?
Against.
Commissioner Lees?
Deny.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant with conditions and amended plans.
Commissioner Alvarado?
Grant with the conditions set forth before.
Commissioner DePasquale?
Grant with conditions subject to the amended plans.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant conditions, subject to amended plan.
This application has been granted with the conditions stated on the record. Case number 3407, application of Hunter O'Neill of 96 Georgia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking for new off-street parking in the front yard at 96 Georgia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 94, Lot 6, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Apple.
Good evening, Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, on behalf of the applicant Hunter O'Neill, who's the owner of 96 Georgia Avenue. My client, based on his businesses and his fiance's employment, they work odd hours, which necessitated the need for an additional parking space, and that's why we're here tonight. I know it's an odd request in the West End, but we believe this is unique in a lot of respects. Based on the fact, obviously, that it's a hardship, I've spoken to my client, and similar to a case I presented last year on Maple Boulevard, we're initially willing to offer this as a special use for this parking spot as well. So in 2 years, if it's abused or denied in 2 years, or he sells the home, he's got to restore it back to the way it was prior to this variance being granted. So that's a condition that we're willing to offer you. I don't know who was on the board for that hearing, similar to a Maple Boulevard case where we had a parking situation in the front yard, a circular driveway. We offered a 2-year use so that you have a hand over this in 2 years and in the future, and if he sells the home and doesn't reside there, this variance disappears. He can't sell it at this spot. He's agreed to this, obviously, because this is triggered by a necessity based on the hours he works. As you know, there's properties in the West End where parking is obviously at a premium. Georgia Avenue, between West Beach Street and Park Avenue, and the only reason I know this is because I drove it myself, has 42 homes. 39 of those homes have driveways and curb cuts. There's 3 homes without them, and this is one of them. Most homeowners come to this board seeking front decks, extra recreational area, as you've heard me testify to tonight on other cases. He's willing to lose that recreational area, that barbecue area, in order to put a car so that he can safely park his car at night when he comes home or his fiance comes home, just like 39 of the other homes have around him. There's been numerous variances granted where off-street parking has been granted by the board on a case-by-case basis, so this application is not unique in that respect. There are people that park in the front yard. He's got plenty of room there. It's like almost a 9-by-30 spot. If you look how he parks, it's not your traditional parking. He's got to park sideways, obviously, but he's got enough space there, so he's not anywhere near the street. Again, what is unique is the necessity for the off-street space and the fact that he's offering the condition that he owns and resides there, or he will restore it back to the pre-variance condition. To go through the legal criteria, there's no undesirable change to the neighborhood. These changes have been granted. They have granted, you guys have granted front yard parking. It can't be achieved by any other means. There's no other way for him to park a car. The way the house is situated, unless he raises the house, he's got no off-street spot, like his 39 of his neighbors have. We don't believe it's substantial. We put 1 car there, and again, it's not going to run forever. If he sells the home or he's not living there, he has to restore it. We don't believe it's going to have an adverse impact on the neighborhood. When he's taking a car off the street, yes, he's getting a curb cut, but he's got 2 cars in the house. It's the same as parking in front of his house now. So, like I said, we're seeking to achieve what the other 39 homes around him have, and that's a parking space off of Georgia Avenue so he can come home. He's resided here his whole life. His family's been here, for 30, 40 years, and I don't believe what he's seeking is substantial in light of the fact that he's agreed to make this conditional.
Well, I have a couple of questions, Mr. Apple. I mean, I understand the situation that, you're describing about the 39 homes. I mean, on a practical level, it seems like, FEMA, in my opinion, has solved one issue of flooding and created many more problems in terms of all these homes that are lifted that have these double curb cuts. I would say probably more than half of them, the cars don't even go in the garage. They become rec rooms. They become anything but a garage. And people that have to frequent the West End can't park anywhere as a result. But with this particular situation, I see that there looks like, it appears to me to be a curb cut already existing the width of the property. So, for starters, we're looking at this photograph, correct?
Yes.
For starters, already the applicant has made the curb cut, and my suspicion would be that there might be more than one car that's gonna be parked on this property. I mean, not only can it create some hazards in terms of, traffic, like all the other double curb cuts that we have because of FEMA, but it becomes unsightly, as well. People almost creating circular type driveways, when you have an entire curb cut the size of the property. So, I mean, that in and of itself, to me, poses a problem. I mean, that curb cut would have to be only really the size of one car that, would be parking there before we would even entertain it. Otherwise, it even lends itself to multiple cars being parked sideways on that property, maybe even encumbering the sidewalk. Because my kids live in the West End, and I see it all the time. I mean, cars parked on Kentucky, Georgia, where my kids live, basically, right on the sidewalk, across the sidewalk. So the design of this already looks like it's been done, and it kind of upsets me in terms of the fact that the curb cut extends the entire width of the 30-foot property, it looks like. Do you want to just elaborate on that a little bit, or?
I don't think he's done anything to the curb. I think there's just concrete right there.
Well, it looks
There's
like
no
it dips
chop out of the
down
initial
from the
curb.
house. I'm assuming that the house is to the north of it, but it looks to me like right at the property line, what is left of the curb kind of dips down into what I would see as a curb cut.
And I don't think you could really
Maybe you see that.
logistically fit more than one car there anyway, but that's, I understand your
You
concern.
guys, know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yeah, see it.
So, I mean, I don't know if you want to
Has
have
the
your
work
client
been
address that.
completed already?
No, this is, I'll let him elaborate on what's there,
Okay.
but that concrete in the front of his house has been there. That's why we wanted this parking spot. You can speak, you can answer that. Go ahead.
Hunter O'Neill, 96 Georgia Avenue.
Mr. O'Neill, have you been issued any summonses or violations from the City of Long Beach Building Department?
Yes, so I moved into the house a year and a half ago. I owned it for about 4 or 5 years already. When I did construction, I had all permits. I did do new concrete, and we followed the same curb height that was originally there. A local masonry guy did it, Anthony Bella. And then also with the block being repaved, they put new asphalt down there also, which also makes it look like it's a curb cut, but I didn't put a curb cut there. So the violation, I don't know if you want to call it a violation, but they had warned me because I didn't know that I needed a special permit to park a vehicle in the front yard, and I had yellow paint there, and it was for yellow paint on the curb. So no one could block me, and I followed what they had told me to do, which is paint it gray, and I haven't had any issues since.
Any members of the board have any comments or questions?
So the work's already been done?
Yeah, so the permit was closed with a final inspection probably a year ago, I'd have to say.
Anyone else on the board?
There's logistically no way of doing a 8-foot curb cut and putting your car perpendicular to the house. It doesn't fit, right?
I don't think you can do it perpendicular. You're definitely not the 50, because I think it'll be 9 feet deep, so the only way to do it is the 9 by 30, that, parallel to the house.
You'd have to have a 9 by 20, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way it's going to be 20 feet down.
I don't
Yeah.
think you can fit 2 cars there.
No.
What's the width from the front of your porch to the sidewalk? Do you know?
It's like 9 feet and 1 inch, I think, 9 feet 2.
What do you do for a living?
I do construction, sir.
And what are your hours?
My hours they vary. So I own the business, a small business owner. I do a lot of work in this town, and my hours vary. I go on appointments late at night. My fiance works in Manhattan. She's a hair colorist. Her hours vary as well. Most of the time she gets home at 9:30. I'm picking her up from the Long Beach train station, or when I can't make it because I'm on an appointment, she has to she has to drive, and she has to come home late as well. And she has to come home late as well. She has to come home late. She gets home late as well.
Any other members of the board? Obviously, there's no one in the audience to speak for or against. Does anybody want to make a motion on the application, or do we want to leave it open for voting? No motions, right? All right, it's going to remain open for voting, Mr. Apple. You're welcome.
5 cases in the town of
He's very off the record, but YouTube is still rolling.
Yeah. That's all right. It's done, I'm gonna shut it off.
Mr. Apple.
Take care.
Good evening, folks. Robin, are there any other matters of business? Well, I'd like to thank you all for being here this evening, and this meeting is now closed. Although the cases remain open.
First day, first question, and make somebody cry. This is